Every time a tenant moves into one of my properties, I do my best to find an excuse to stop over there within the first month. Why do I do that? Well, number one, it helps me to set the tone and makes them aware that, hey, going forward, they signed a lease and I'm going to make sure that they abide by that lease. And let's just say the last time I did that, just recently, you'd be surprised at what I found and what I had to nip in the bud. So here's the situation. Let's have a quick chat with Chatto about how to navigate this process and why it's so important. The tenant had recently moved in, and of course, they needed a copy of their lease, which is a pain. But unfortunately, they were not very technologically savvy. They could not sign electronically. They could not get the PDF version of the lease, etc., etc., etc. So I happened to be in the office, and of course, the tenant stops by. I haven't met her because my agent, who handles everything, gets the tenants and puts them in place and runs them by us, obviously. That being said, the tenant shows up at the door, knocks on the office door. I open it up. No communication whatsoever. Doesn't speak any English. I don't speak any Spanish. Very little. And of course, okay, I have no idea who this person is. So I get my phone and I call up my property manager who speaks fluent Spanish. And I get her on the phone and come to find out that this is the new tenant that moved in and she needed a copy of her lease. Because when the agent had her sign, there was one copy, because it's really long. It's what's the word I'm looking for? It's a paper lease sometimes. It has to be a paper lease when they can't sign it electronically. Of course, between all the different stuff that goes along with the lease these days and all the things that need to be included, especially in New Jersey, the lease just gets to be so long. That being said, the agent has them sign the lease, but the agent can't countersign the lease. We need to countersign the lease. So the agent brings it back. We countersign it. She was looking for a copy of it. Great. Let me print it for you. And of course, my printer prints one page every 30 seconds. It's completely ridiculous. And I don't know why it prints so slow, but okay. Hit print, print out the 30 pages. Takes like 10 minutes. Get it printed. Awesome. Here we go. Here it is, on her way. So that was the first interaction I had with her. And of course, it was a photocopy of the lease, right? It wasn't the original. So wherever she needed the lease for, whatever she was trying to set up, it wasn't satisfactory. And she needed a residency letter. And we get requests for those a lot. So she calls up my property manager and says, hey, I need to get this residency letter. So we're on our morning management call, and the property manager, we're talking on our morning management call, and she's like, hey, that new tenant needs a copy of the residency letter. The lease you gave her was a photocopy, so it wasn't good for what she needed. She needs an original. And I said, and she's like, can she swing by today at some point and pick it up? Because we're not always in the office. She got pretty lucky to catch me while I was there to pick up a copy of the lease. But that being said, I'm like, no. I said, that's not what we're going to do. I said, draw up the residency letter, email it over to me. I'll print it, and when I go into the office, I will swing by the property, and I'm going to stop in, and I'm going to give it to her. And let her know that while I'm there, I'm going to check on the work that was done just recently at the property, and that'll give me an opportunity to see what's going on. So there we go. So that gave me an opportunity to get into the house, was delivering a residency letter. And again, you need to set the tone, right? This was just a random opportunity to get in. If it's a quick, random type of thing where you can go and take a look at the property, you're going to get a better idea of how they keep it. Rather than, hey, we're coming in next week to go through the property, they might be more prepared. So anyway, I get to the house, park, go up to the door, and guess what? I hear the dog barking. And I'm like, really? You just moved in. You got a dog already? I'm like, come on. We make it crystal clear in our screening process that dogs are not allowed. We make it crystal clear in the lease that dogs are not allowed, pets are not allowed, cats are not allowed. And of course, the first time I go to visit, right after move-in, she's got a dog there. So I'm like, okay, really? So she opens the door. I give her letter, kind of like, hey, I need to come in. Again, she doesn't speak any English. And she recognized me from the office, and she recognized that I was giving her the paper she was looking for. So she let me in, and I go in the property, and I went to the kitchen to see the new sink faucet that was installed. And it was less to see the sink faucet. I trust my guys that put in the sink faucet that they did it the right way, but it was more of an excuse to get in and walk through the house a little bit and see what's doing. And I'm like, okay. And then the tenants were complaining about the basement door had some kind of gap or something. So I'm like, okay, let me go look at the basement door. So I go in the basement and I go to check that out. And there was actually another issue I saw down there that the sewer cap needed to be reinstalled. So I'm like, okay. And again, sewer caps are disgusting. I'm not about to play with a sewer cap when I can send somebody else to do it. That's where I am right now. That's just like, hey, I don't want to touch a disgusting sewer cap. That being said, for some reason it was just loose. So I'm like, okay. So I go back upstairs and I get my phone out and I get the Google Translate and I confront her on the dog, right? I have to confront her. I can't just let it be, right? I have to call it out. So I confront her on the dog, and through our broken use of Google Translate, I get the fact that, like, hey, it's the sister's dog. I'm like, I don't have the patience to go back and forth with this woman on Google Translate. And of course, the whole time I'm there, she was on the phone, on speakerphone with someone. I don't know who it was, speaking Spanish. So I didn't know what they were saying. So I got that much out of her, and I'm like, I'm not the one to deal with this because I don't speak Spanish. So that being said, I went on my merry way. And aside from the dog, I really wasn't that happy because the place was kind of a mess. Like, they just moved in. They don't have all their furniture set up. They're not, like, really, like, in place yet. So I'm like, I can give them some grace there. But the dog that's an absolute no-go. So that being said, like, okay, so what's the plan now? How do I move forward now that we find out they have this dog? So I call up my property manager who speaks fluent Spanish, and I explain the situation to her. And she's like, hey, you got to call this woman up. You got to say, hey, no dogs are allowed. You signed that there's no dogs, right? You told us that there's no dog, and we get there and there's a dog. That doesn't work. You have to get rid of the dog. And she said it's her sister's dog. And I'm like, that's great. The sister's dog can't be there. I don't care whose dog it is. We're not going to have the dog there. So she calls up, lets the woman know that. And of course, anytime we tell somebody they can't have this pet that just showed up, they're like, oh, it's not my pet. It's never their pet. And no problem, we'll get rid of it. So it doesn't stop there, right? So now I need to find out, that she actually got rid of the dog. So in order to do that, at the very least, we have the contractor who's going to go back and reinstall the sewer cap. So when he goes to do that, he's going to show up and he's going to knock on the door, and hopefully there's no dog barking. He's going to be aware that, hey, there was a dog there. There's not supposed to be a dog there. Is there evidence of a dog? There's also an outlet that needs to get handled. And we're going to send the electrician out in the next week or so. At the same time, hey, when you're there, check it out. Is there a dog? Is there any signs of a dog? Be our eyes and ears when you stop by the property. That'd be greatly appreciated, right? So that's how we're going to kind of follow up on this and see what's going on. Ultimately, if we find out that they have not gotten rid of the dog, as per our lease, there's going to be a monthly pet fee that they are going to have to pay. And that monthly pet fee will no way cover the potential damage that a pet, a dog, cat, whatever, will make to a property. It can easily be $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 worth of damage a pet can potentially cause. I've seen it, right? The thing is, tenants do what they want to do. As much as I have things in the lease and as much as I explain things to them, at the end of the day, they do what they want to do, and I can't force anybody to do anything, especially in the state of New Jersey. My hands are tied for a lot of things within eviction court if I want to enforce my lease. That being said, I do what I can do, and if she has a dog, she has a dog, and she's going to get charged a pet fee. Now, the people that we find out end up having animals. Most animals are not an issue. 99% of the time, maybe 95% of the time. Like, the pet is no issue. They take care of their pets. The pets don't cause a problem. The pets don't destroy the place. I have pets. My house is fine, right? There's a lot of people that have pets and don't have an issue. But it's the ones that do have an issue that cost a lot of money. So getting those getting those pet fees adds up, and eventually it'll help offset when we have pet damage at a property. And like I said, the other issue is that the place is not very neat. Like I said, and I give them some grace. They just moved in, but it's a concern, right? If the place isn't kept neat, it could be an issue with pest infestations, right? And it just generally, I've noticed, whenever a tenant is very neat, clean, and organized, the property, when we get it back and they move out, is in much better shape than the person who is not clean, neat, and organized. They're just harder on the property. They're harder on the property in a lot of ways. And that is what it is. And there's only so much that can be done about it. But at the end of the day, most importantly, you need to have a system in place that in that first month, you get into the property and see what's going on. Again, it's a good idea to set the expectation that you're going to come out to the property and that, hey, you're going to be there for 10 or 15 minutes. You're going to be doing a walkthrough with your checklist, that checklist that you're going to download from me. You're going to go through the property with that checklist and just make sure that everything is the way it should be, right? And set that precedence moving forward, right? Because if you are a landlord that takes care of your property, that handles issues before they come issues, it's going to save you money, and it's going to make happier tenants, and happier tenants are going to stay longer, which means you have less turnover, and turnover is the most expensive thing you can have. So it's just a good idea to make sure that when you go to your property, you do all the preventative things that need to get done. You prevent service calls, you prevent maintenance calls, and you keep the tenants happy. So hopefully that was of value to you. Like I said, on chatwithchatto.com, you can go there, you click the link, and you can download my property checklist. You take that with you whenever you go to one of your properties. It's going to save you so much time in prevented trips. You're not going to have to go back to the property multiple times because you missed something. You're going to go to the property once, you're going to spend 10 or 15 minutes going through my list, and you're going to get pretty much everything handled that you need to handle while you're at the property, right? For preventative maintenance and that type of thing, and to prevent service calls. So that's huge. The other thing actually is, while you're at chatwithchatto.com, if you want to really chat with Chatto, you can click the little link and book a call with me. I'd love to have a conversation with you, see if there's anything I can do to help you to either become a landlord or in your landlording journey. So anyhow, like and subscribe, because there's some kind of Google, YouTube algorithm, and it would apparently be very helpful if you did. At least that's what everybody says, right? And, hey, leave any comments below. Any questions, any comments on this video? I'd love to have a conversation with you down there. And as always, I appreciate your hanging out and watching an episode of Chat with Chatto.